I don't mean to brag by any standards, but in 2018, I won a debate tournament. And in that tournament, I encountered a case that was so terrible and logically flawed that I got my opponent to concede within the first rebuttal of that debate, in a 6-round debate round, mind you. I bring this up because I would like to draw a parallel to the things that are currently going on the internet today, and that is the return of Kero and his particular video stating his side. His video, in all honesty, is a lot like that kid's debate case. It was no firmer than a wet booger in terms of logic. So today I'm gonna kind of be going over that in this whole situation, and even going into his own video and rebutting it. So using points that I have acquired through my own independent research and through the research and propositions made by others on the internet. Now, before delving into the specifics of his video and the allegations which have been brought up against him, and as well as the recent drama which has come to light in his current defenses, I feel obligated that I need to establish why zoophilia is wrong from a philosophical standpoint. What I've realized in terms of those who attempt to defend zoophilia, they take a very, very Kantian viewpoint on the issue. And that is that because it's two independently thinking organisms enjoying each other, quote unquote, that it would be morally within either of their interests to do the act, and therefore there's nothing wrong with it. Here's the issue with this particular argument. It ignores a very critical aspect of moral action, and that is the noumenon. What is the noumenon? Well, let's look at our good friend Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher, specifically in his book, The World as Will and Representation. Schopenhauer in this book argues that each species can be divided into what you can call Platonic ideas. So you have expression of these Platonic ideas in what is the phenomenal, in terms of like phenomenon, which is the word which we're all familiar with, and this new big fancy crazy new word called the noumenon, which is expressed in various grades and forms. Each species of animal reflects a Platonic idea that captures the phenomenon and the noumenon of the entire species. Every individual represents a part of that shared noumenon and phenomenon, as in human beings have the same physical characteristics, generally speaking, to define them as a species, which is the phenomenal level, and we all generally have similar actions in terms of our moral compasses and the way we treat one another, as in there's a general level or a hierarchy of respect that happens in most societies. That would be an example of the noumenon. It's an aspect of a universal moral compass in all of us. Essentially, what Schopenhauer argues is that because the noumenon is different in every single species, and it can be expressed in either higher or lower forms, being more complex hierarchies or emotions compared to less complex hierarchies with even less complex emotions, that to act upon the noumenon from one party, being the human beings, to, for lack of better words, copulate with a different species that has a different level of noumenal thinking, that it would be an offense to do so, because they cannot understand nor can they comprehend what is happening to them at the same level that a human being can. So because there's that lack of comprehension from both an emotional and moral concept, it's unethical to perform an act upon that other party. Ergo, bestiality in all its forms is immoral. TLDR version, animals can't consent because they morally nor emotionally can understand what consent is at the same level that a human being can. Now onto the actual allegations. For those of you who have forgotten, I do know an individual who does a very good job at basically going over everything that did happen in great detail which was Mr. Mediocre. I don't agree with him on a lot of his politics, but admittedly he did a very, very thorough job at providing all of the allegations that were levied against Kero and supplying sufficient evidence which have successfully condemned him still today in the eyes of the majority. Now, for those of you who don't know and don't have the time of day to essentially go and watch those 2 some odd hours of content, essentially what happened is that there was a user on Twitter that leaked DMs and text messages of various conversations that had Kero in it that discussed everything from feral artwork to straight up snuff films with animals. And Kero was allegedly within one of those videos committing very foul acts upon live and deceased animals. And it's pretty concrete that, one, his dog was actually featured in the video, and secondly, he himself was in the video. Now, at the beginning when all this happened, Kero found himself in a bit of a wreck. He first said that none of it was real and that he was hacked by Iranians of all people. Secondly, he then went and conceded and said, well, some of these were true, which a lot of them were. One of his best buds that he's now so condemning in his current video got arrested and I believe is facing 25 plus years in prison at the moment, basically shifting the blame, saying they did it but not me, and that everything else is faked. And lastly, now he's actually shifting blame over to people just trying to cancel him for mere accusation that happened years ago, and we can forget about it and be all kumbaya, essentially, and that he's just being canceled for the sake of drama. Now, here's the issue that I'm going to address. He addresses all this in his video, so I'm going to address this now with rebuttals. His first claim in his video was that because the OP that posted the content was also a zoophile, that the information disclosed is wrong, or it's not true. Now here's the issue with that. That doesn't change a thing, okay? It doesn't matter who the hell posted it. It's the fact that you and your dog were posted in it doing foul things, right? That I have morally established just previously to be immoral on a platonic level. Trying to say that the fact that the OP was a zoophile per se is completely irrelevant given that we're talking about you. That's a red herring, my friend. He also says that he was, and I quote, arrested for no reason and that the charges were dropped because he was actually found innocent. However, this is also not the case. This really good person on Twitter who's also a lawyer at BoozyBadger, thank you for this post, makes a really good clarification about this for those of you who are unfamiliar with things. Although it is true that Kero was arrested and his things were confiscated, you cannot be arrested for absolutely no reason, as Kero claims. At least in the state of Pennsylvania and the majority of the United States, the police can arrest you under 2 specific circumstances, being that there is one probable cause that you did something, so they can arrest you. Secondly, you have to have a warrant. So that means that there could have been either probable cause or a warrant which led to Kero's arrest based off of evidence that had been compiled by the police department. Also, there was a post from the inside coming from McBittyPaws, who also makes a counterclaim that the reason why he got out of this is because his parents did not comply with the police. They were very hesitant to allow the police to search the home, etc., which they do have the right to do, but because they didn't allow for full investigation, full openness, as Kero claims, Kero's just blatantly lying. He didn't comply totally with the police. He also makes a claim that he was set up, of all things, that all of the images, all the text messages that he was posted, that he was set up, that he was being framed, he was the scapegoat for this entire ordeal because he barely associated with some of these people, right? And that everything else that happened to them was right, but not to yours truly, right? Here's the issue with that. This isn't just a few screenshots of information. These are months of chats. Like, a lot of messages were sent between these 2 people. These 2 weren't just Twitter acquaintances who DM'd each other twice every 3 months. These were full-blown conversations with months of content on them. It's incredibly difficult to fake that quantity of information in a single bout, right, to set you up. So you're already leaning on the improbable of your claim. So it's not a strong claim to say that you were set up by these people. lastly, he also makes the point that he never got really the chance to defend himself either. He makes that claim in his video, stating that, well, now is my chance to speak up after everything that's gone over and it's all cooled down now. I can finally give my side. You had that opportunity 2 years ago. And like I said prior, you decided to blame it on Iranians and then distance yourself from the people with whom you were associating. All right? And then lastly, the capping, the crowning argument that he's going off of in his video is that, well, I was never found guilty. The FBI cleared me and the 2 police departments just wasted their time, yada, yada, yada. Right? Here's the thing. They're just saying that I haven't been found guilty, ergo I'm innocent. That is admittedly true, like our good friend at BoozyBadger states. But he also goes on to argue that, and this is legal precedent in the state I live too, this is legal precedent everywhere, that in order to arrest someone and actually not press charges, but like hammer it out that this person is definitively guilty of this, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person did this. Take, for instance, the O.J. Simpson case. Very controversial. There was evidence submitted in the court that suggested that O.J. Simpson was, in fact, guilty of murdering his wife. However, due to other things that have happened, he was found innocent because he wasn't proven beyond reasonable doubt to have committed said act. They can't establish it beyond a reasonable doubt as of now to actually have him arrested and put on trial for it. Doesn't mean you're innocent. In fact, it means the contrary. It means you're just as guilty as you are innocent. It's conceding to the fact that there is evidence against me showing that I diddled my dog. That is what it is saying when you say, I'm not guilty because I haven't been proven guilty yet. It is a gross manipulation of terms meant to contort the facts and the foggy memories of people who don't know what's going on. So that, my friends, is why Kero the Wolf is definitively in the wrong in this case, and why his retort video is, for lack of better words, complete and total dog water.